The Duke of Asherton had learned long ago to master every weakness, to govern every impulse with the iron discipline befitting his rank. Yet on this rain-swept autumn evening, standing in the shadowed alcove of his ancestral manor, he found himself unmanned by a single, impossible sight: Clara Hewitt, the governess, kneeling before the nursery fire, her worn woolen dress clinging to shoulders that trembled with silent grief. He should not have been watching, should not have noticed how the firelight painted copper into her dark hair, nor how her fingers pressed against her lips as though to trap the sob that threatened to escape. She believed herself alone. She did not know that for 3 months now, he had marked her presence in every room she entered, that her quiet voice reading to his orphan niece had become the only sound in this cold, cavernous house that stirred something dangerous beneath his ribs. Earlier that day, the Dowager Duchess, his formidable mother, had presented him with a list. 12 names. 12 impeccably bred young ladies of fortune and flawless lineage, any one of whom would make a suitable Duchess of Asherton, any one of whom could provide the heir his title demanded. Not one of them was Clara. Not one of them could ever be. And yet, as he watched her rise and straighten her spine with a resilience that made his chest ache, Alexander Blackwood, 7th Duke of Asherton, understood with crystalline, devastating clarity he was already lost. The year was 1842, and Asherton Hall stood like a monument to permanence, its gray stone walls and endless corridors whispering of 5 centuries of Blackwood dominion. Here, every portrait, every silver spoon, every marble stair bore witness to bloodlines so pure, so unimpeachably noble, that to marry beneath one's station was not merely scandalous. It was a form of ancestral betrayal. Alexander Blackwood understood this bone deep. At 38, he had inherited not just a dukedom, but a sacred obligation to preserve, to protect, to perpetuate. His late brother's death 2 years prior had left him guardian to 7-year-old Lady Eleanor, his only niece, and painfully aware that he remained the last of his line. Society expected him to marry. The title demanded an heir. His mother orchestrated introductions with militant efficiency. Yet when Miss Clara Hewitt had arrived 6 months ago, a vicar's daughter fallen on desperate times, grateful for any position that offered respectability, something in the ordered machinery of his world had shifted imperceptibly off its axis. She was everything a duke should not notice. Too young at 22, too poor in her threadbare muslins, too far beneath his sphere to warrant a second glance. And yet, the way she read Shakespeare with Eleanor, her voice breathing life into Prospero's speeches, the quiet dignity with which she navigated the servants' hierarchies, neither servile nor presumptuous, the intelligence that flashed in her gray eyes before she remembered to lower them. He told himself it was nothing, a passing awareness of an uncommonly competent employee. But passing awareness did not explain why his heart kicked against his ribs when she entered a room, nor why marriage to any of those 12 perfect candidates felt suddenly, inexplicably, like entombment. The summons came on a Tuesday morning, delivered by Mrs. Hollowell, the housekeeper, whose expression conveyed what her words did not. Governesses did not meet privately with dukes unless dismissal loomed. Clara's hands trembled as she smoothed her gray wool dress, her finest, though the cuffs had been turned twice and the hem bore the faint water stains of too many walks through morning dew. She had known this position was temporary, that her presence here existed on sufferance. Young women without family, without fortune, without connections did not belong in houses like Asherton Hall. The Duke's study occupied the eastern wing, a masculine sanctuary of leather and mahogany where portraits of stern-faced ancestors judged from gilded frames. Clara had never entered it. Governesses used the servants' stairs, took meals in the nursery, remained invisible. Now she stood before its imposing door, her heart a wild thing battering against her ribs. "Enter," came the voice that haunted her foolish dreams. He stood with his back to her, silhouetted against windows that overlooked manicured gardens she would never walk. Tall, broad-shouldered, every line of him speaking of power held in careful restraint. She had memorized that silhouette from stolen glances, the way he held himself with military precision, the gray threading his dark hair at the temples, the set of his jaw when he was displeased. "Your Grace." She curtsied low, eyes fixed on the Persian carpet. "You wish to see me." Silence stretched. Then footsteps, polished boots entering her line of vision. "Look at me, Miss Hewitt." It was not a request. She obeyed, lifting her gaze to meet eyes of such startling blue they seemed almost cruel in their beauty. In them she saw something that terrified her more than dismissal ever could. Recognition. "Lady Eleanor speaks of you with great affection," the Duke said, his voice carefully neutral, as though they were discussing the weather rather than standing so close she could smell the sandalwood of his soap. "She has made remarkable progress in her studies. Lady Eleanor is exceptionally bright, Your Grace. It is a privilege to teach her. Yet I understand you also instruct her in matters beyond the standard curriculum. Philosophy, political history." His eyebrow lifted fractionally. The rights of man. Heat flooded Clara's cheeks. She had been careless, forgetting that servants reported everything to the master. "I apologize if I have overstepped, Your Grace. I thought." "You thought correctly." He turned away, creating blessed distance. "My niece will inherit a significant fortune. She should understand the world she will navigate, not merely how to watercolor it prettily." Relief made her dizzy. "Then I am not to be dismissed." "Dismissed?" He turned back sharply. "Why would you think?" He stopped, jaw tightening. "Has someone suggested your position is in jeopardy?" "No, Your Grace. But I am aware that my circumstances are unusual, that I am here only because Lady Eleanor needed immediate supervision after her previous governess departed." She forced herself to meet his gaze. "I know I lack the proper credentials. The references. I am simply a vicar's daughter who can read Latin and keep accounts." Something flickered across his face. Anger, perhaps, though not directed at her. "Your father was a scholar, was he not? Cambridge educated?" "Yes, Your Grace. Before he took the living at Thornbury Parish." "Then you are hardly simply anything, Miss Hewitt." His voice had gone soft, almost dangerous. "You are, if I may observe, considerably more educated than most women of far higher rank." The compliment hung between them like something forbidden. Over the following weeks, Clara told herself the Duke's attention meant nothing. Dukes did not notice governesses except as functionaries, interchangeable as the silver they polished. Yet she could not explain away the small, impossible things. The way his gaze found her during Eleanor's afternoon lessons in the garden, watching from the terrace with an expression she dared not interpret. The morning she discovered a complete set of Shakespeare's works in the nursery. First editions, worth more than she would earn in 5 years, with a note in his precise hand. For Lady Eleanor's continued education. They both knew Eleanor already had access to the library. The volumes were for Clara. She should not have kept them, should have returned them with appropriate gratitude and distance. Instead, she read Hamlet by candlelight in her tiny attic room, and imagined his fingers turning these same pages, and hated herself for the yearning that had taken root beneath her ribs. "You're in love with him," said Mary, the upstairs maid, cornering her one morning in the servants' hall. The statement was not cruel, merely observational. "Every girl who works here falls a bit in love with His Grace. Can't help it, really. But you, Miss Hewitt, you've got it worse than most. Don't be absurd." Clara's voice emerged too sharp. "I am sensible of my position." "Being sensible don't stop the heart wanting what it wants." Mary's expression gentled with pity. "Just be careful. Men like him, even the decent ones, they can't marry the likes of us. And anything less than marriage ruins a woman." Clara knew this, had known it from the moment she first saw Alexander Blackwood and felt the earth shift beneath her feet. Knowing did not make the wanting hurt less. The Dowager Duchess arrived in October with the subtle devastation of frost, transforming Asherton Hall from relative peace into a battlefield of social maneuvering. "Lady Beatrice Wentworth will join us for the house party," she announced at dinner, her voice carrying through the cavernous dining room where Clara had been summoned, an unusual occurrence that set her nerves jangling. The Dowager had insisted the governess dine with the family during Eleanor's presence, a move Clara suspected was designed to highlight the gulf between servant and aristocrat. She is everything one could desire in a duchess. Impeccable lineage, considerable fortune, accomplished in all the feminine arts. "Mother," the Duke said quietly, a warning in the single word. "You are 38, Alexander. Your duty cannot be postponed indefinitely." The Dowager's gaze swept to Clara, dismissive as one might glance at furniture. "Surely even Miss Hewitt understands that great houses require great alliances." Clara's throat closed. She forced herself to swallow a bite of food she could not taste, eyes fixed on her plate while her heart splintered. Miss Hewitt's understanding of my duties is irrelevant to this discussion. The Duke's voice had gone cold, ducal, as is her presence at this table while you dissect my marital prospects. On the contrary, it is essential she understand her place in this household. The Dowager smiled with brittle precision. Governesses come and go, Alexander. The dukedom endures. Later, as Clara prepared Eleanor for bed, the child's small hand caught hers. I heard grandmother. I don't want you to go, Miss Clara. I'm not going anywhere, darling. The lie tasted like ash. Uncle doesn't want to marry Lady Beatrice. I heard him tell grandmother no. Clara's heart lurched traitorously. Your uncle will do what is best for Asherton, even if it destroyed them both. The house party descended like an invasion. 30 aristocrats bringing trunks and servants and the suffocating weight of expectation. His eyes closed as though she had wounded him. Clara, please leave. Her voice fractured completely. I cannot bear this. Please. He left, but not before she saw his hands clench into fists, as though he fought every instinct to reach for her instead. For 3 days, Clara did not see the Duke except at a distance. He played the perfect host, attentive to Lady Beatrice, charming with the Dowager's guests, every inch the aristocrat born to command. Watching him, Clara understood viscerally what she had always known intellectually. They existed in different worlds. Yet rumors reached even the nursery. The servants whispered that Lady Beatrice had set her cap firmly at the Duke, that the Dowager had all but announced an engagement, that the wedding would be a grand affair come spring. Are you quite well, Miss Hewitt? Mrs. Hollowell asked, finding Clara staring unseeing at Eleanor's copybook. You've gone pale. Just a headache, Mrs. Hollowell. Nothing of consequence. Everything of consequence. That evening, a note arrived with her supper tray. Meet me in the conservatory at midnight. I have a proposition. A. She should not go. Should burn the note and remember her place. Instead, she found herself slipping through darkened corridors as the house slept, heart hammering against her ribs. He stood among the palms and orchids, still in evening dress, looking like some dark prince from a fairy story where the heroine always loses. When he saw her, something in his expression made her breath catch. I have a solution, he said without preamble, one that serves duty and desire both. Her stomach dropped. Your Grace, you cannot say such things. Clara's voice emerged as barely more than a whisper, though every nerve in her body screamed at her to run, to preserve what remained of her breaking heart. I am your employee. You are a duke who must marry well. This, whatever this is, it cannot exist. I am aware. He did not move closer, but his gaze held her captive. Do you imagine I have not catalogued every reason why this is impossible? You are too young, too far beneath my station. Your presence in my household makes any attachment unconscionable. I hold every advantage of power and position. To pursue you would be to ruin you. Then why are you here? The words burst out, edged with desperation. Why give me Shakespeare? Why look at me as though... She stopped, mortified by her own boldness. As though what, Clara? Her name on his lips undid her. As though I matter. You do matter. He moved then, closing the distance until propriety screamed its protests. You matter so profoundly that I lie awake calculating how to redesign my entire existence around your presence in it. You matter so entirely that the thought of Lady Beatrice Wentworth, or any woman who is not you, bearing my name makes me want to burn this house to its foundations. Tears spilled hot down her cheeks. Then we are both damned, Your Grace. Because she pressed her hand to her mouth, trapping the confession. Say it. His voice turned raw. Give me that much, even if we can have nothing else. I love you. The words emerged broken, devastating. I love you, and it is the most foolish thing I have ever done, and I would give anything to feel differently, but I cannot. I cannot. Alexander, please. He closed the distance between them. Marry me, Clara. Not for love. I cannot offer that publicly. But for heirs. For companionship. I will provide for you beyond your imagining. And in return, you will give me children and save me from a marriage that would be a living death. She stared at him, something howling in her chest. You want me to be your broodmare. I want you to be my duchess. It is the same thing. Her voice broke. You stand here and offer me everything except the one thing that matters. Your heart given freely, not as a concession to your title's demands. My heart is not free to give. The words exploded from him with startling violence. Do you not understand? I am the Duke of Ashern. Every decision I make affects hundreds of people, tenants, servants, families who have depended on this estate for generations. My mother is right. I need an heir. The title demands it. But I cannot, his voice cracked. I cannot marry Beatrice Wentworth or any of those perfect, bloodless women and pretend they are you. So instead I should marry you and pretend you love me. Clara's tears came hot and bitter. Accept a position as your glorified servant, elevated just enough to give you children, but never equal, never truly yours. You will be my wife, my duchess. That is not servitude. It is a different cage. She wanted to strike him, to make him understand. You offer me security, yes. Wealth and position I could never dream of otherwise. But at what cost, Alexander? I would spend my life knowing I was the practical choice, the convenient solution, never wondering if you stayed with me out of duty rather than desire. How can you doubt my desire? He caught her shoulders, not roughly, but with desperate intensity. I have fought this for months, told myself you were forbidden, that the gulf between us could not be bridged. But I cannot stop wanting you. It is a madness in my blood. Wanting is not loving. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And I will not marry without love, even if it means I remain a governess all my days, even if it means never knowing your touch. I deserve more than to be chosen because I am convenient. He released her as though burned. Then what would you have me do? Choose me because you cannot live without me, not because I solve a problem, or let me go entirely. The silence that followed felt like something dying. Clara fled the conservatory, half blind with tears, and collided directly with the Dowager Duchess. Well, the older woman's eyes glittered with malicious triumph in the dim corridor. How illuminating! Ice flooded Clara's veins. Your Grace, spare me. The Dowager's voice could have cut glass. Did you truly believe you could seduce my son without consequence? A governess with aspirations above her station. I have seduced no one. Clara's voice emerged steadier than she felt. His Grace summoned me to discuss. I care not what lies you've concocted. The Dowager stepped closer, and Clara smelled lavender and venom. You will leave Ashern Hall at first light. I will provide references, barely adequate ones, and you will accept them with gratitude. Refuse, and I will ensure no respectable household in England ever employs you again. Clara's world tilted. Lady Eleanor needs me. Lady Eleanor needs a governess who understands boundaries. You, Miss Hewitt, have demonstrated spectacular failure in that regard. The Dowager's smile turned cruel. Or perhaps you wish me to inform the household staff why you must leave. How you threw yourself at the Duke in a calculated attempt to secure a position far beyond your deserving. That is not what happened. But Clara's voice wavered. Who would believe her word against the Duchess? Is it not? A poor vicar's daughter, alone with my son in the dead of night? I wonder what conclusion society would draw. The Dowager's expression hardened. You have until dawn. After that, I will have you removed by force if necessary. In her room, packing her pitiful belongings with shaking hands, Clara understood. She had been a fool to believe love could conquer the immutable laws of rank and blood. The world did not work that way. It never had. Clara left Ashern Hall as autumn dawn broke cold and pitiless over the gardens she would never walk again. Mrs. Hollowell had wept, pressing a small purse of coins into her hands. From a servant collection, Miss, we'll all miss you terrible. But there had been no sign of the Duke. He was likely still abed, or perhaps breakfasting with Lady Beatrice, planning a future that had no place for a governess who dared love above her station. The coach to London lurched over rutted roads, taking her toward an uncertain future. She had the Dowager's grudging reference, the servant's coins, and a heart so thoroughly shattered she wondered if it might ever beat properly again. She did not let herself look back. At Ashern Hall, Alexander Blackwood stood at his study window, watching the coach disappear into morning mist. He had known of Clara's departure. His mother had informed him with icy satisfaction over breakfast. What the Dowager had not known was that he had spent the night since Clara fled the conservatory locked in his study, staring at estate ledgers he could not read, while his world reformed itself around a single, devastating truth. He loved her, not as a solution to his problems, not as a convenient vessel for heirs, but with the kind of love that remade a man from the inside out, that made him question everything he had been taught about duty and destiny and the immutable laws of their world. And he had let her go. "Your Grace." His secretary appeared at the door. "The Dowager asks when you will join the house party for the morning ride." Alexander turned from the window. His voice, when it emerged, held a quality his secretary had never heard before, something raw and decided and entirely uncompromising. "Send word to the stables. I require my fastest horse prepared immediately. Your Grace. And inform my mother that the house party is concluded. All guests are to depart today. But your Grace, Lady Beatrice." "Lady Beatrice," Alexander said quietly, "is not the woman I intend to marry." Will Alexander catch Clara before it's too late? Can love truly conquer the iron laws of society? Subscribe now to see how this impossible romance unfolds. You won't want to miss the next chapter of their journey. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell.